The medium of video games has proven to be a great place for storytelling, and a lot of that merit can be attributed to the interactive nature of it all. Video games can take you through the perils of adventure, put you against insurmountable odds, or treat you to fantastical worlds that make you feel like a living and breathing part of the story. And when done correctly, these stories hit unlike anything, especially when the ending perfectly encapsulates that journey or throws an oddball to sweep any expectations off the floor. We've been pretty grateful this year for experiences that fall under this bracket, and to that effect, here are 10 video games that were released this year and have fantastical endings. Please note that there are major spoilers ahead. Black Myth: Wukong. Developer Game Science produced a great action-adventure in the form of Black Myth: Wukong, taking the known narrative elements of the classic novel Journey to the West and crafting a thrilling sequence of memorable boss fights one after another. While the narrative beats follow a more traditional approach to storytelling, Black Myth delivers a fitting finale to the entire ordeal with a showdown against the Stone Monkey, which is followed by a long sequence that puts an end to the tale of Wukong and his search for the Six Senses. Of course, there are multiple endings involved, but each of them is equally emotional in its own right. Elden Ring: Shadow of the Erdtree. Elden Ring easily stands tall as one of the best works of From Software to date, and expectations were obviously pretty high for its highly anticipated expansion, Shadow of the Erdtree. This slice of the experience takes players through the Shadow Realm, a dark land ravaged by war and conflict. After going through a harrowing journey besting the mightiest warriors of the land, players have to face the promised consort Radahn, who is even deadlier in his final form. Once you've won against this devil in a deadly duel, we get to see a memory of Miquella, offering that she would make the world a gentler place, and the player gets to follow in her footsteps and finally bring some light to this dark world. Of course, there's a ton of lore that can provide additional context to this plot, but it's all pretty powerful storytelling nevertheless. Neva. Neva's ending isn't a happy one. After going through the entire game, supporting and helping her grow, Alba stands alongside Neva and her pup to face the darkness again. Events play out seemingly like the beginning, as Alba falls and Neva is fatally wounded, just like her mother. However, her pup springs forth, unleashing her power and dispelling the darkness once and for all. And while Neva is no more, the ending is one of hope in the circle of life, even in the face of unrelenting odds and tragedy. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. The Final Fantasy VII Remake might imply that this is essentially the same story that we fell in love with back in 1997, but the developer has taken quite the liberty to create a story with a larger scope that follows the original script in broad strokes. Rebirth picks up where Part 1 left off, and the ending serves as yet another cliffhanger that has us salivating for what's coming next. The game ends with Sephiroth killing Aerith once again, but the stakes are much higher this time, with multiple realities coming into the picture and Sephiroth wanting to rule over the infinite realities within that world. There's quite a bit more to that, but Rebirth's ending tells a memorable story about destiny and asks interesting questions on whether or not it's possible to change that. The Silent Hill 2 Remake. Bloober Team's rendition of Silent Hill 2 is a faithful reimagining of this classic that's been changed to serve a modern audience. The story of James Sutherland arriving in the town of Silent Hill and ongoing through hell to find his wife is an emotionally charged tale that excellently balances more traditional experience, along with psychological horror. And all of that culminates in one of the many endings that you can achieve along the way. A couple of these endings are a bit more eccentric, such as the UFO or the dog ending, but others, such as Leave or In Water, serve as memorable bookends to the narrative that will stay with you long after the credits roll. Batman Arkham Shadows. Oculus Studios' recent release Batman Arkham Shadow might not be the fully fledged sequel to Arkham Knight that many thought it to be, but it certainly features one of the best detective-centric stories in the franchise. The mystery behind the Rat King takes us to many places, but in the end, he's revealed to be none other than Harvey Dent. And what's more fascinating is that the Rat King is actually an alter ego of the man, owing to his dissociative identity disorder, and that he seemingly has no recollections of his deeds as the Rat King. It's a smaller story that takes around 10 hours to complete, but the smaller scope helps with creating a more focused storyline with little to no filler elements to artificially pad out the runtime. Metro Awakening. Metro Awakening puts players in the shoes of Serdar, who must venture through the danger-infested metro tunnels to get back to his wife. Awakening serves as an origin story for Khan, and that journey ends on a rather interesting note when Serdar starts to see weird visions of him being resurrected as Genghis Khan, who was responsible for countless deaths back in the day. Serdar also sees other visions of a mother and a bandana that seem to have a profound effect on our character. The ending serves as a vital piece of information and fleshes out the backstory for a character that has quite the significance in other mainline entries. Like a Dragon: Infinite Wealth. Like a Dragon has always meshed together surprisingly emotional crime drama along with eccentric characters in hilarious moments, which results in a rather distinct combination that's tough to find anywhere else. Infinite Wealth's story starts out simply with Ichiban and Kazuma pairing up to find their mother, but it all soon spins up into a larger crime drama filled with double-crossing characters and plot twists. However, the game ends on a rather happy note, with Kasuga proposing to Seiko in yet another erratic fashion. Kiryu also ends the shenanigans of faking his own death, which brings a memorable conclusion to this story. Stalker 2: The Heart of Chernobyl. Set against the backdrop of a radiation-infested exclusion zone, Stalker 2: Heart of Chernobyl puts players in the shoes of Skiff, who gets his hands on a titular scanner who can create local anomalies and recharge artifacts that are devoid of power. The story of Stalker 2 is largely based on uncovering information that leads you deeper and deeper into a rabbit hole of government conspiracies and plot twists. Of course, you can also choose to side with one faction over another, and these choices are weighted against one another in the finale. Stalker 2 presents players with multiple endings depending on their choices, but a common thread of unavoidable destruction is evident in each end, as we see either Skiff dreaming of the Shining Zone, only for that hope to be shattered in pieces, or Skiff becoming a puppet of the government after getting tricked by Agatha. Astrobot. Astrobot might not be the most narratively complex game to have been released this year, but it definitely stands tall as one of the best platformers of recent memory, all thanks to excellent level design and great attention to detail. Much like the PS5 pack-in release Astro's Playroom, Astrobot is a literal celebration of all things PlayStation, and fans are sure to find something to love in this carefully curated adventure. The conclusion of Astro's adventure also turns out to be a surprisingly emotional one, where our cute protagonist succumbs to death at the hands of the final boss, the space bully Nebulax. However, he is brought to life once again following a swift operation, which then leads to a grand celebration as you literally hop and glide your way through the end credits.